attention, please. The reason I'm walking around with a recorder in my hand is that these little talks that we're going to do at the end of each tutorial are being filmed and then will be put up to the website. And as we get through this, I'll explain what we're doing about lectures in general. Okay, so can you all see this from where you're sitting? There's one down that end and one up this end. What I've got in the first slide is just a summary of each of the tutorials. So you can see how it's going to pan out. Today we've got 3 tutorials, one after the other, with those hour breaks in between. Then next week, Wednesday morning, we'll be looking at the natural environment. Then we'll be making some flying machines. But then the afternoon tutorial is given over to using the resources of the lab to prepare your artefact for your presentation. So this is assignment 1. And then on week 3, the first tutorial, this time on week 3, you will take turns to present to this group. You'll have about 12 minutes to present, and then after that we go and we do some cooking. Some sherbet and some pikelets. We might even flip those around because it's a big messy one, the last one, so give us more time to clean up after the cooking. Okay, so some questions. When I was putting this together, I was trying to work out, well, what's going to be puzzling to my students given that this is a summer school and what's going on? So I've got some questions that I have to answer. Why aren't the tutorial notes up there? The tutorial notes for this unit are enormous. See those? Those are the tutorial notes just for today, just for the first 3. This is an opus done by a guy called Colin Webb, who used to run this unit. And Colin would come in at 7:30 every morning before students got here and he started teaching, and just write. So they're fairly idiosyncratic. They have the notes of what's going on in the tutorials there, but also there's a lot of other information which is Colin's look at education in general. So they're really, really valuable. Why aren't they up there for you beforehand? Because the tutorial notes section gives all of the answers for all the investigations that you've just done. So Thursday, 5 o'clock, automatic release, they'll be available on the website. Okay, so there's one for the circuits, one for when you come back we're going to make some cars, we're going to race some cars. So that's for the cars, and then the afternoon one we're going to put what we've done this morning and what we've done in the midday together to make something that's roughly equivalent to what you would do for your first assignment. So you've had the skill development to do that sort of artefact building. Okay, so the first assignment is due real soon now. Yeah? And so that's why you've got to form your groups today. In fact, you've got to form your groups as soon as I stop talking. In that 1 hour, you've got to get together. Now, when the room was filling up before, and I asked people to sit into other groups, what we suggested is that in that break period, you could reform. You don't necessarily have to be working with the group of the people that you happen to be sitting down with at this table. That's fine. We've got one group of 3 here that needs an extra person. And there's enough other people around the room to have another group or one group of 3. But as I was going around and watching you work, if you want to stay in the group you're in with even 5 people, that's okay. All right? It's preferable that you have groups of 4, but the groups were working quite well together. But don't feel that you have to stay if you want to reform, because we all know about group work, don't we? And how challenging that can be. And you've got even less time than normal because you're presenting in, you will have presented by this time in 2 weeks. And you'll then be handing in a reflection that evening. Okay, so when and where are the lectures? What I've done with the lectures is I've gone back to last semester's lectures and with some help from the e-learning guys, extracted them from views, and I'm in the process of cutting them up into sections. So the first lecture I've cut in half, the second lecture and the third lecture I've cut into thirds, and they're being posted to a YouTube channel, a UWS YouTube channel, and in the website there's a little web link, so you click on the link and it takes you to the YouTube channel and you can watch them there. Yep. So in addition to that, because they were last semesters and they were, idiosyncratic to that, I'm also doing these little lecturettes at the end, no more than 20 minutes, 25 minutes at the end of each tute, just to update the content or what's relevant to what we've just done. So what's on the view site to help me? Next slide, or in a couple of slides, I'll take you to there. And the last one, please don't tell your friends in tomorrow's tute what you've done today, or as we go through, because you can see it's a lot about discovery. And for the same reason as the tute notes aren't released, let's keep that quiet for a while. Okay, any questions? Any other questions I didn't think of before we go on? Well, if you've got any questions at any time, come and see me. Oh, that's something. My phone number. It's on the unit outline, on the front of the unit outline. It's... That's my mobile number, and you can use it between 9 a.m. and 11 p.m. 7 days. Now, I'm not being generous or anything. You don't expect that from any other lecturer, but it works well for me in that it means that I don't have a whole lot of other emails to answer, because emails take a lot longer to answer. It works well for you because you get an immediate answer if you can get through to me. If I'm teaching or something and it just goes to, and I don't answer it, then send me a text, because when you send me a text, I get your number. If you just phone me, I don't necessarily get your number. The other thing about that, my policy with phones in tutorials is you should leave them on. If someone needs to contact you, that's fine. If someone contacts me and I'm in the middle of speaking like this, I'll ignore it. But if I'm got time, I'll take the call. Yep. Now, again, that's just my rule, because it works for me. Okay, next slide. We're talking about assignment 1. In a minute, I'll talk about the nitty-gritty. Have you downloaded the learning guide yet? Yeah. Yep, and had a look at that? Okay. This is more about the process. You'll need to form a group, and we've talked about that already. It needs to be a group of 4. Done today, as soon as this tute finishes, really, yes, you really have to do it. Have lunch together and talk candidly. Do you know what I mean by candidly? Like, be brutally honest about yourself, in particular your limitations. Because it seems to me that most difficulties in groups come from a difference in expectations that people place on themselves. Because people expect so much of themselves, and when they're in a group, they automatically expect everyone else in the group to do what they would do. And different people have different approaches to being at uni, so you really need to spell that out so that it's out there. Now, that's really not going to be an issue in this course because you have so little time. You don't have time not to come to a meeting or not to do a Skype call or something like that, because you've just got to get it done in that 2-week time. Okay, record. Use your devices to record what you get done in your tutorial, but also whilst you're working on building your artefact. Yeah? Now, I'm encouraging you to do that because I think it's a teacher tool. I think you record stuff with your kids in your classroom and you get them to publish so that they own it. Reflect on the implications for your teaching of the process of your learning. That's main benefit. When you come to write, you know, in your first assignment, you've got to write a reflection. That what you record is going to help you to do that. Publish, get yourself a space on YouTube or Vimeo or wherever. You'll be asked to publish your assignment presentation. We're going to ask you to video your presentation and then send it to us and we'll post it. A closed group, not to everybody, just to this group, just to this tune, as part of that process. And again, treat it as a trial of what you would do with your students. And just because I'm practicing what I'm preaching, this is what I did one holidays. If we can get this up. You ever wonder what lecturers do when you're not here?
So, magnetic. Oh, don't be good. So, levitating platform using magnets.
I went to a conference called Constructing Modern Knowledge.
Put your finger through them so that everyone can see there's nothing. We got the Empress wave. We are defying gravity here, folks.
Now, in a room about 10, 15 times the size of this room, there were about 200 other people doing other constructivist projects. The first night, they took us down to the MIT lab in Boston, and on the way down, I designed this. Came back the next morning, and myself and the other person working with me built this in about an hour. And then spent the entire rest of the 3 days not succeeding, not building anything else. If you go to Vimeo and look up CMK14, you'll see all the other stuff that people made. Things like you walk through a forest of made-up cardboard and paper leaves, and as you touch things, music plays. There was all sorts of stuff. Someone had a device that they made out of Lego that held an iPhone so that you could film a panning shot on an iPhone. It's made out of Lego. All sorts of stuff done. Okay. Have you heard of Newton's cradle? Okay, you hang little balls together and they're touching. You lift two on this end and they whack down and two on the other end come off, etc. Well, we tried to do that with magnets where they weren't actually touching. And it's much more complex. Because this will stop swinging and then suddenly it'll swing big again. Just as the interactions of the fields. Okay, enough. So, what have you got to make? This is all text straight from the learning guide. It's a something, a device, a thing. It could be whatever you like. It contains 3 different electrical devices, principally bulbs, motors and buzzers. A switch should be there somewhere, but that's not one of the devices. It uses both series and parallel circuits, and to make it a little bit more challenging, you can use as many batteries as you like, but they've all got to be in the one power source. They've all got to be in the one location. So it's one source of power. Okay? There is a history of these being made, and on the website there's a file with a whole lot of pictures of what people have done before. But I'm hoping that you'll think a little bit differently. Just going to put that there. You'll hear me later on today talk about tinkering. And one of this comes from the Exploratorium, this book. Those things are conductive. But how about you make something that you could wear? I understand last time someone did a sari, as in a garment, that had lights and buzzers and motors embedded in it. And I don't have it in here, but in the other room I've got some little kits that I made up with some special thread in it that conducts electricity so that you can sew a circuit. So it might be a hat that does all sorts of stuff. But it doesn't have to be wires. It can be outside that box. Here's some examples. Another example here is squishy circuits. If you type in squishy circuits, you'll get lots and lots of stuff. Two different recipes for Play-Doh. One conducts electricity and one doesn't. So that's a possibility. This lady has got a TED Talk about squishy circuits. This has got a site about it. Just squishy circuits, you'll see it. Okay, some other possibilities. The Lego Technics, only in conjunction with other things. The problem with Lego Technics is that it's too easy. It's just a kit. We've got some Lego Technics kits that you can borrow if you don't have it, but we're thinking about using Lego Technics in whatever else you're constructing to help extend it. Low-tech, upcycled, repurposed, discarded, all that sort of stuff is useful. You've got a budget of $40. We're not giving you the money, we just want to resist you going out and spending lots of money on this project. So, if you can find broken toys that no one's using anymore, then there's lots of wires and batteries and motors and buzzers and things in that. The difficulty with that stuff is you've got to work out what the voltages are. Now, most people go to Jaycar. You heard of Jaycar? It's a chain of electrical shops. The one up in Bankstown, those guys know this assignment. They really like it when young women come in and talk to them about this assignment that they've got to do, because they can chat. But that means over the years, they've got to know what this assignment is. You might strike someone there that doesn't know, but they've been very, very helpful. Do you know the one I mean? Up on the highway at Bankstown? Yeah, opposite the Three Swallows? Or just up the road from the Three Swallows? Okay. Now, mostly people have done models of buildings, of windmills, of playgrounds, of sustainable houses, or whatever. And so if you really must do a model, yes, you can do a model. But I'm encouraging people to really think differently about what you'd like to do. Because, and my worry is this, what we've seen is that people have done stuff that's a replication of what you've done in the tutorials. And they've gone out to teach thinking there's this little recipe book of how to teach science and technology. And it shouldn't be like that. It should be much more responsive to the issues of the day and the interests of your kids and all that sort of stuff. So if you can think outside the box, that's good. If you've got any thoughts or any worries about any of what you're doing at any time between now and when you present, that's why the number's there. I really do expect to get calls from you. I'm not just doing that to be nice. It works for you, it works for me as a teacher, because if you can get that advice, then I look good because you do good. Yeah? But you've got to use the number to ask me. Okay, so there's also a checklist. And that's one of the things that Colin did when he was designing all of this, is that he's made these hyperlinked checklists in Word. Your second assignment is really a form that you fill out. It's a big long form, but it's a form that you fill out. So, get that checklist. It's on the website. It's a separate file. It's much more complex than this. It's got little boxes to tick and all that sort of stuff. And some of these have, several different tick marks to do. But it's there for you. Now, when I'm marking this, I'm going to be sitting there with that checklist, which is also replicated in your learning guides, and ticking off the stuff that I see. So it's all got to be there. And my experience in marking all of this is if it's all there, it passes. It's only once or twice that people have just left out whole chunks because they couldn't do it, or had trouble or whatever. But yeah, get it all done. Any questions about any of the language, what that means at this stage? Okay, we'll finish on this one. There'll be more of this presentation this afternoon. By the way, this presentation is up on the site. It's version 2, so if you've downloaded it yesterday, go back because it's been extended. So, on the website we've got the usual stuff down the left-hand side. Go to unit information for your learning guide, for your unit outcome, for the checklists. Discussion space. The discussion is different in that it's there for you to use. It's not there for me to tell you stuff. I'll only respond if asked. I'll watch it, but I'm not monitoring it. I'll go there occasionally to see what's happening. But it's really a space for you to communicate with each other. Messages is where I communicate with you. You want to have grades so you can go and... You want to have a space so you can go and see your grades. So under the assessment one on the left-hand side, there's a folder for assignment 1, a folder for assignment 2, and a folder for the checklists and those sorts of things. So the assignment in this unit. Okay, then going to the main folder, the learning materials, we've got the stuff that I brought in from the last running, from 2014 2H. So that's where the lecture slides and the lecture videos are. So the slides are all there, the slide sets, and the videos that I'm chopping up and putting up, that's where the web links are for you to go and get those. And then there's a whole set of units from a group called Primary Connections. And I'll show you a little bit more about those in the next talk. They're really, really useful. Coming down to the folder for summer school, that's got 2 lots in it. There's tutorial videos. So there's these videos that we're doing. They'll be posted there. But also there's a folder there for you to post your tute videos. And in the discussion session, there's a little video from the e-learning guys about how to do that. So it might be that you publish it to, say, something like Vimeo, you go in here and you just put a message or something like that. Okay, and tutorial notes, all these notes that I showed you before, that's where you'll find those, and they'll be released when?
Thursday
Do you remember?
at 5?
Thursday at 5 o'clock. Good memory. Okay.